Hi, everybody. We're going to walk through how you do some initial software setup in your 3Disc system in order to get going with the Alphabyte module for prefabricated pediatric crowns. So the screen that you see when you open your 3DiscClinic software is this, basically. If you've pre-scanned some other patients, they'd be listed out to the side here, and you can toggle between patients and previous cases. Again, this is a new system, much like yours probably is, and you don't have too many other scans showing up. At the bottom, you have two options where you can create a new patient and go about entering it, name and date of birth and other demographic details and notes if you'd like to. Perfectly fine. Alphabyte, as you know, works with integrating this data as you would use any other scanner, and then you can find that case later, transmit that data to a laboratory for, say, a space maintainer or a sports guard. But again, as you may know, Alphabyte kind of works independent of a lot of this specific patient data because we're doing prefabricated, preformed crowns that don't necessarily need data transmission to a lab and a waiting period and a separate appointment for prosthesis placement. So we can cancel out of that or enter that in depending on how you want to use your system and how you want to log your cases, because what you can do is go straight into create a new case, and it doesn't really request the patient name and date of birth and all that, because sometimes if you're going to use Alphabyte specifically for a case more or less in real time, we don't really need to save that information. It's just like using a stent to make a provisional crown. Once the stent is used to make that crown, it's not really of any actual value and usually is discarded after the procedure. So this data is not necessarily discarded, but it's not holding of a ton of value unless you need to send it to a lab for some other purpose. But for Alphabyte and prefabricated crowns, it's more or less useful in real time. So when you create a new case or you enter a new patient and then go to the scanner screen to set up your case, you'll see this readout, this diagram of adult dentition. That doesn't really apply to the pediatric dentist, but when you click a tooth, you'll see that there's a number of workflows that can be selected. Again, for a pediatric provider, very few of these are going to be routinely valuable to you. There's not a lot of screw-retained implant crowns, for instance, or removable partial dentures, but it's nice to know that the scanner you just purchased is capable of all things dentistry. But to hone your system down to something that is valuable and useful and simplified for day-to-day integration into your pediatric practice, I tell everybody to go back to the home screen, open up the settings menu, and then the first thing you want to do is go down to case setup and then change your tooth numbering system to the primary tooth numbering system. And now your system, your diagram will look a lot more familiar to your pediatric eyes, because now when we open up this tooth diagram and we start clicking on teeth, there are primary teeth A through T. And now we still have the workflows over here, but at the top of the list is the one that will resonate with us in terms of the prefabricated crown process, that is Alphabyte. So in this situation, if we want to select a molar for prefabricated crown placement, and we want to use Alphabyte to guide the size selection pre-op and the prep guidance, both pre and intraoperatively, then we can select our tooth. In this case, we'll demonstrate it on tooth B. We'll select Alphabyte. We'll say that we're doing a crown. And over here, all these fancy scanner settings are set for you just by selecting the Alphabyte workflow. From here, after clicking Next, we'll see that the scanner acquisition screen launches. And this is where you can actually pick up your scanner and begin scanning. Now, one thing to notice when this is on the screen, in a live patient case where you're scanning in the mouth, this Fly AI icon is really, really beneficial to have on by default, as it is in my system. And I am only toggling it on and off because I plan to scan a model in my hand, and the lighting effects and the surface translucency is kind of different on a model compared to in a real mouth. So we're going to turn this Fly AI algorithm off, which automatically deletes mobile tissues like lips and cheeks and gum tissue to some degree, and maybe rubber dams, things like that. So a really functional feature to have on in vivo cases, but on benchtop settings, it's good to have that turned off. So in an Alphabyte clinical situation, where we would start scanning. We're going to kind of run through those details in the next module. But as far as getting started, opening the 3Disc software, resetting the small handful of settings in the background to make it ready to go for pediatrics, that's all you need to know.